What up, YouTube? It's Jess, your favorite recovery. Today, I have two very special guests with me, okay? I'm gonna let them tell you who they are, and we will go from there. Miss Laura, why don't you tell everybody who you are?
No. My name is Laura, and I am a certified peer support specialist. I work at a rehab facility. I have 8.5 years clean. I have been homeless, in jail many times. And my job as a peer support specialist is to help people like me.
Eric, would you like to tell them who you are?
Sure. Excuse me. I'm Eric. I'm also a peer support specialist / cognitive behavioral specialist. I work with people involved in the criminal justice system solely. I'm also a person in long-term recovery, going on like 6.5 years as of now. Yeah, had a long time with heroin, cocaine addiction, in and out of jails, also homeless, living like shit.
Yeah,
Found a way out.
absolutely.
So basically, those are a little bit of some of your experiences on what led you guys to become a peer support specialist. How would you say your guys' personal journeys shaped your approach to helping others?
So for me, I really didn't know much about the recovery process. I never heard of NAAACAHA. I never heard of peer support. I was lucky enough to get arrested many times and ended up in drug treatment court. Through drug treatment court, I met my own peer support specialist. And it is because of him that I was able to see the benefit of one peer helping another. That's what led me there.
How has your personal journey shaped your approach to helping others? Why did you want to do this, I guess?
So, I guess it gave me a lot of understanding, right? Because I have like 20 years of addiction, to substances. It started when I was like 21, 22, and then I didn't get better until I was 36, 37. And that was like all of this, like just not getting it right, not caring. So like having all of those constant failures and then finally getting it right and never going back, like gave me the understanding, right? That anybody can do this. You know, I didn't want to work with addicts. I just didn't want to. I was actually working in group homes, taking care of people with mental disabilities. And then my friend said, "Hey, you should come apply at my place," you know. And I was like, "I don't want to work with addicts. I know that game." They're like, we were like, no lie, we're all liars.
We
right?
are. We're yes.
Snaky, and we want to get away with stuff, you know. But like, I don't have to take that on as my personal thing, right? It's nothing, because it's never personal. It's business, right? And business is getting high, and that's by any means necessary. So it's not my doing if somebody's going off screwing around and not taking anything seriously. So I gave it a shot, and then, you know, you start to see the success, because you're like, damn, like, I mean, I went through drug court twice myself. You know, I failed the first time. I got revoked, and then just you start to see the successes, and then the more successes you see, the more you're like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, right? And you start understanding how to give people the tools that they need to survive in the real world, and to see them utilize those tools and make it and do amazing things with their lives. Like, that's why I'm in this, you know.
Okay.
To watch people change.
Okay. Thank you. What do you guys think the key qualities or skills that make a successful peer support specialist?
So, the skills that we possess are different. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think, at least for me, what happened is that I had someone finally in my life who was able to tell me, "You're full of shit." And it was someone I cared about and someone I respected, right? So I think one of the skills you have to have is to be able to tell someone that they're full of shit, but still that you care about them and that you want to see them get better. Because that is the main goal, wanting people to get better, to succeed, to move forward, to have a life where they never had a life before, right? So my skills are, I listen. I don't try to overtalk people. People have a lot to say. People like us have been in the dark for so long that they have so much to say with no one to ever listen. So I listen. I don't take any crap. I care about the people that I serve. And so if I see you going down the wrong road, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. If I think you're going to, I'm going to tell you, if you go back out there, baby, you're going to die. And I don't want you to die, right? And they tell me I shouldn't say that, but that's the truth of the matter. We are going to die.
Especially today.
Especially today. I'm sorry I had to cut in, but
that's
yes,
okay.
Especially today.
Yes.
We don't know what we're getting. And guys, I brought Laura on here actually because she was my peer support in the beginning of my recovery. And I slipped up in the beginning and she called me out. She knew I was lying and I kept bullshitting her around. She knew I was high. She knew I was high. And the next day I came and I apologized to her because she called me out on my shit. And that's what we need in our lives. This woman saved my life. She took me to detox when I needed somebody the most. She picked me up from the street, drove me to detox, and helped me get back into treatment. And she listened, like she said. She did not judge me. She picked me up at 3 o'clock in the morning to take me to detox. Okay? But nowadays, we need to listen to these people. I mean, seriously. How do would you say you guys establish trust and rapport with your clients?
You can go first.
Well, I mean, first of all, when I work with anybody in general, whether I'm working as a peer support specialist or as a cognitive behavioral specialist, right? Because there's a difference and I do have to wear different hats, right? I always give my experience. Always. Right off the bat, right when I'm meeting somebody, I let them understand, like, this is what I went through, right? I'm not one of these, because especially when you're involved in the criminal justice system, you're just surrounded by people that haven't had the experience that you have. If you're an addict involved in the criminal justice system, you don't have anybody besides other people that are in your same position around you, and not all those people are healthy. So right away I let them know, look, I went through drug court twice. I was on Justice Point supervision for 8 years of my life. I couldn't clean pee. I couldn't pee clean for 8 years. Should I start that over?
You're good.
I couldn't even drop clean for 8 years. And I would go on. I would get a warrant. I'd go on the run. I'd get picked up. I'd go to jail. I'd get out. I'd get dope sick. I'd use. I'd drop dirty. I'd go on the run again. I'd get a warrant, and it just kept spinning like that for years and years and years. I mean, 8 years of my life. So, letting them know I have this experience right off the bat usually helps. It's because I work for the criminal justice system. I still have that. It's hard to be that catalyst, but I try to bridge that, right? Yeah. Especially with people that are involved in drug court, or people that are on deferred prosecution agreements. They have a extreme mistrust of the system,
Mhm.
right? So I try to bridge that gap, because when you're involved in on a deferred prosecution agreement, or well, drug court is a deferred prosecution agreement. It's like a deferred prosecution agreement on steroids.
Mhm.
But when you're on that, you have a complete mistrust of the system, and you don't have to. It's the one place that you can, like, it's the one place in the criminal justice system where you can be honest, and you don't have to worry about it. What you have to worry about is being dishonest. So I try to bridge that gap and let them know, like, you're in a safe spot, like, it's okay. And I know that because I've experienced it, right? But it's not always, I mean, in the end, like you were saying before, some people just aren't ready. And it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what I do, right? Some people just never have that trust. But just the fact that somebody else has had this experience and came out the other end of it, right away, they're more interested in talking to me, right? As it's not their case manager just sitting there telling them what to do,
So I feel the same way, right? I tell people off the top who I am, what happened to me. I also tell them that drug court, UCC, and my higher power saved me from me. And I'm grateful for that. And as we talk, people like us, we know bullshit when we hear bullshit, right? And so people listen because they hear the authenticity. How do you say
Authenticity.
Yes, they hear that in your voice, right? It's like any addict talking to any addict in recovery talking to anybody, wanting to get into recovery. They can hear the realness. Real recognizes real always.
Always. What do you guys think your strategies or tools you guys found most effective in maintaining your own sobriety while dealing with your clients?
So that's a good one. That's really a good question. We talk a lot about self-care in the recovery world, right? Whatever works for you is self-care, right? That takes you away from all the stress, all the hustle and bustle of your life. And when you get into a position like Erik and I do, what happens is you can get more stress, right? Because you start to care about the people you serve, and now you're worried about them. So you have to find a way to establish boundaries. You have to find a way to do self-care, because you're going to have all these different relationships with your family, in addition to your work, right? Because those are the people that you worry about. Not everybody, so Erik and I are the same, but we're different. He's more scientific, and I am more emotional, right? Spiritual. And so for me, I have to do things like I go in my apartment, I close the door. I listen to jazz. I turn on the TV as background noise and I play silly games on my phone. That helps me relax, right? Taking a bubble bath and with candles, those kinds of things. Going out of town to visit my friends. I can do that now. There was a time when I didn't even have 50 cents to eat. And now look at me, hey, I got a little bit of weight on me.
We looking good,
right?
dog.
But now I get to do things, right? I get to call my friends. I have a wonderful friend sitting next to me that I talk to on a daily basis, right? He makes me do things I don't want to do sometimes, like go to the hospital when I'm sick. But so those are the things that, for me, right? Establishing boundaries, telling people, look, you can call me, but if you call me, know that I do sleep. And I'm not going to answer in the middle of the night unless I see it, right? and so I practice self-care. I still go to meetings. I still go to events. I love to go to Narcotics Anonymous conventions. They're fun for me. But boundaries and self-care, that's so important. And knowing, right? Knowing in my head that not everybody's going to get it. And that helps me establish the boundary I need to not, I can't work harder on someone's recovery than they're willing to work on it themselves.
Well, I think it's for you too. It's a lot more important because Laura is so involved in the community, in the recovery community. She's so involved. I mean, she works her regular job in a rehab, then comes home to live at a rehab, like a halfway house. So she's constantly there.
Because she works, because I work there.
So she's constantly there. Whereas me, I kind of got a 9 to 5. I don't take the crap home with me, right? Like, work is work, and I go home, and at the end of the day, like, I'll tell people, here's my phone number, you can call me, but I just want you to know I got 3 kids. I don't always answer my phone. I'll call you back when I can. So if it's an emergency, like, we gotta learn some tools on how to deal with that, right? I can't just drop in and save you every time, But definitely the boundaries are important.
Yeah, for sure.
It depends on what it is that you do,
Are there any specific resources or techniques you guys often recommend to those that are early in their recovery?
Like resources like the 12-step groups so there are a lot of different entities that will help you when you're early on in recovery, right? There are the 12-step groups. They keep you involved in your recovery. There's Dharma Recovery. That's based on Buddhism, and it's about mindfulness and about being a better person. There's Phoenix Recovery. That's all about exercise, and it's free, y'all. It's free. Okay?
Free is good, y'all.
Free is good. They do things like hiking and bike riding and all these different fun things that are exercise related. And there's Celebrate Recovery for people who believe in church and they believe in God. That's through the church, right? And then there's Smart Recovery for people who are more scientific and they believe in all of, what happened to me, why did this happen to me, and how can I fix it? There are resources to help us, such as recovery support coordinators, right? There are case managers. There are programs that will help you with housing. There's all kinds of things.
So there are a lot of resources available.
Man.
You just have to open your mouth and ask.
Right.
Closed mouths don't get fed, y'all.
Absolutely.
And you do, and just do what works for you, and don't get caught up in. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So if you're going to 12-step meetings and you feel like they're not working for you, then try something else.
Yep.
If that doesn't work, try something else,
Yep.
and you keep going. But we have a tendency to just try the same thing, right? And it ends up not working. But in the end, it's your life. You got to do what's right for you. And I wouldn't say go do something just because somebody else says it. Do what's right for you.
Right, because your recovery is your recovery.
Right.
You have to find what works for you. People like Erik and I who do peer support, you're not going to always have us around to hold our hands, right? You have to find what works for you. What?
I said, I hope not.
Right? But that's the case, right? Like,
Yep.
I tell my clients all the time, you could be handcuffed to me for 6 months. We could be having this really good time. Recovery is awesome. You're having the time of your life. However, once those handcuffs come off,
Right.
now you have your own life to live. If you're not working on your life, then things are not going to get better for you. And you're going to go back out there, right? Recovery, y'all, comes from the inside. You do the things you need to do to get established somewhere so people can start help you working on you. And then it comes from the inside. You have to fix you.
If you don't go within, you're forced to go without.
Absolutely.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's
One
true.
more time. One more time.
Said if you don't go within, you're forced to go without.
Absolutely.
That's not my original.
But that's the truth.
It's the truth.
It's the truth, right?
Yes. Cause okay, guys, I'm gonna be honest. I meetings did not work this time for myself, and I don't knock people that do meetings because what works for one person might not work for the next person. But people need to know that there are these type of resources out here, because you know Miss Laura, she does her NA thing. I don't do the NA thing. I do this. I do other things within my community that keep me sober and strong.
Staying engaged
Yep.
in some sort of recovery process
Yes.
is what's important.
Yep. How do you guys stay updated on the latest developments in addiction treatment and recovery?
Oh my God, we live it every day.
Yeah.
So for me, right, being peer support, you have to do 20 hours of continuing education every 2 years. I probably do 4 times that, 5 times that. I am always attending webinars or trainings or engaging in the community, finding out what's going on in the community, finding out what kind of drugs are out there now, what are some of the things we can do to stop what's happening. And it's just not easy.
Right.
Can you guys recall an inspiring success story from your work as a peer support specialist?
So I have several. There are several people that are doing absolutely awesome and amazing. Erik was he was one of my peers. And he's a funny man. And I remember him coming to the first group we had, and he was like, I can teach this class. I'm like, oh, okay. Right? Because in peer support, we don't really teach the class. We just talk about stuff, right? And I was like, oh, okay, And he couldn't stop being smart-assed. And so I said, well, no, but you're better. And I said, well, since you know everything, you can leave. And he did. But so Erik is a big one, and he told me, I don't want to do peer support. I'm never going to do peer support. And I'm like, okay. And then one day he said, guess what I did? The other person is, she works at WCS, and she has just been promoted to the director over several different programs, and she is still in my life. So these are the people. So as you guys know, as people who are in addiction, we suffer a lot of losses. My son passed away last year from an overdose, and it's really not any better. And it doesn't get any better. And so we suffer the loss of loved ones. We suffer the loss of friends, family, just the people we care about, right? And it does not get any easier. So we have to do what we need to do to get everybody involved in the recovery process. We have to educate the community. That's what this is for. We have to educate the community, because the community, for some reason, thinks that once we're an addict, we are always an addict.
Right.
We are junkies, we're useless. That's not how the case, that's not how it is. We do recover. We become doctors, lawyers, nurses, judges, police officers, peer support, counselors, all of these things. We become YouTube people, recovery diaries. Woo!
That's what I'm talking about. We're recoveries, y'all.
That's what we are.
So, guys, what keeps you motivated to continue this work?
So that's what I was going to tell you. I kind of lost my thought there.
That's okay. This is a great video.
So through all of the losses, there are the few that make it, right? There are two of you that I love very much, and I cry a lot, people,
That's okay.
who have made it, right? And I know many, many more. That's what keeps you going. There's so much loss and so much pain and so much suffering that the successes are what keeps you going and keeps you motivated to do what we need to do.
I think the understanding of what that lifestyle was really like, you know, to remember that stuff. And like, I have a way of being, I act like like most people don't even believe that I'm an addict anymore when they see me, right? Because I've gotten fat.
Yeah, you look good.
You know what I mean?
He looks good.
Guys, I brought Erik on here too because me and Erik go back to 2012 and he was in drug court and I was doing, it was the tables were turned back then, but just to see his growth and stuff like that, that's another reason why I brought him on here as well, but man.
I mean, literally, the understanding of how, like, and the craziness of it all, of being in that point in your life. I was 128 pounds when I got clean, right? I had huge infections in my legs. I was in HOC, and the nurses were freaking out because they were like, they were in tears when they saw me because I looked that bad. And the response was, I hope that I lose my legs because then I can get on SSI for more money for more dope.
Because that's what we do.
You know? So understanding that, right? And being at the point where I am, and I keep going because of that lifestyle was so horrible for me. In a way, it makes me lucky because some people can't stop because it hasn't gotten to that point. It hasn't gotten that bad. But for me, that was so bad when you're so lost that you don't know you're lost. It's pretty fucking lost, you know. And really like suffering that badly. And I'm not saying like poor me. It's just that lifestyle was so bad for me and living like that. And I mean, I was such a piece of shit. I was angry all the time, and I took out my anger on everybody around me. Putting my hands on people, putting my hands on women, just consistent anger, consistent trauma, consistent, you know, just absolute hell, stealing every day, day in and day out, and just being treated and treating people awful. This life is ridiculously good, dude. You know, the problems that I have today are stuff like, oh, I have to pay a mortgage on my house that I own.
You got a mortgage
You know?
now, bro. Mortgage.
And money's a little tight, right? But I'm not like spending all that money on dope and not having these things, right? I can take care of my family.
Yeah.
You know, I can do these things and I can be there for those people that do need it.
Yeah.
Even though I'm stressed out, even though I have all this shit going on at home, even though my kids drive me nuts, right? Like, I can still do this. Wouldn't be able to do any of this using. And if you would have known me 7 years ago, you would have been like, there's no fucking way. And I would have agreed with you. I would have wholeheartedly agreed with you.
Yeah.
You know?
It's, so recovery, I'm never going to tell anybody that it's easy because it's not. In the beginning, it's horrific.
Fucking terrible.
It's horrific, right?
Stupidly hard.
But what happens is the more you work on yourself, the more you surround yourself with the people who are doing good and doing the right things, the easier it becomes, right? The more you work on self and healing, the better and easier it becomes, right? Eventually, what happens is through all of the stress, the strain, the pain, recovery becomes a beautiful place to live. You no longer wake up worried about getting the next shit the next morning because you couldn't save the shit from last night, right? You don't have to worry about how you're going to get the money to get it. You don't have to worry about being dope sick. You don't have to worry about going somewhere and not being able to go because you know you can't find your dope. So now you think you're going to go somewhere, you're going to go to a barbecue, you're going to get your dope, you're going to get high, you're going to go to the barbecue, and you're going to be good. No, that doesn't happen. You get your shit, you get high, and you keep getting high till it's gone, and you got to start it all over again the next day. I wouldn't trade this life for anything.
Me neither.
No.
I got 3 last questions for you guys, okay? What would you tell your younger self?
I wouldn't fucking listen to my anyway. I wouldn't tell him shit. I'd let him learn on his own, like my dumb ass needed to. Seriously. I mean,
That's Erik for you guys.
You can say, you know, and I think it's like when I talk to my kids about stuff like this, I think it's about the consistency, right? Like people think that we can just talk to our kids one time. Oh, you know, there's drugs out there and you shouldn't do them. Great. Right?
Yeah, because that's my next question. What you guys would tell the youth out here messing
Okay.
around with drugs?
Okay. So it's about telling them on a consistent basis, right? Like especially if you are the child of an addict, you're already halfway there, bro. Like you are so much more susceptible to that, right? And I think that possibly if I was told more on a consistent basis, right? Like growing up, I always knew my mom was an addict. She was an alcoholic and an addict.
Yep, mine
right?
too.
And I knew that, but I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea. And
Right.
the stupid fucking DARE program was
Yeah.
like, you know.
Oh my God.
Do they even have that anymore in school?
Yes, they still teach
Yes,
it.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah. But they just don't really teach you anything real.
Yeah.
Just that drugs exist. Yeah, we
Yeah.
all fucking know they exist, man.
Yeah.
You know, but look at the detriment that it does. Look at the fucking damage that they do to the community. Look at the damage that they do to the families, to addicts, to everybody involved, right? And if somebody had talked to me on a consistent enough basis, maybe I would have had a little bit better, more equipped to handle the world. But I don't know.
Yeah. So I agree. I agree with that. I think consistency, right?
Yeah.
I think having people go into schools, not to talk about don't do drugs. This is your brain on drugs.
Right.
Okay. So you need to have people go into the school systems and share the real horrors of addiction, the real shit. You know, you need to start when they're young and you need to go all the way up because kids are kids and kids learn by doing.
Yeah. Yes. It's crazy you said that too because I've been realizing this lately with my kids because one of my things is I desperately don't want to become my dad. And I started taking out my anger with my kids and you know, smacking them on the ass. And all of a sudden I'm like, fuck, I want my dad.
Yeah.
Right? And the whole concept of that was I don't want my kids to know that they should put their hands on other people when they're angry.
Right.
But here I am taking out my anger on my kid, putting my hands on them.
Yeah.
So it's like, what am I really teaching them here? But that's the truth.
It is the
They
truth.
learn.
You're
And
teaching
we-
them right from wrong is what you're teaching them, you know?
Sure.
Well, we're trying to, right? With
Right.
all youth, right? There are people.
But they learn from action. is
Yeah,
the
they
point,
do.
Right?
They do.
You can tell them
Till you're blue in the
1,000
face,
times.
just like us. You can tell us
Right.
till we are blue in the face. I can tell you, please don't use. You're gonna die.
Right.
And what do?
Right.
You walk right out and go out and get high.
Right.
And then I'm going to your funeral.
Right.
You know, but kids are kids, and they will learn by doing things, right? And if they have been taught that, hey, yes, this is what drugs can do to you, you know, because they think DARE is just as stupid as we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not all of them.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you get into the school systems, you maybe have classes, maybe you have peer support that can go inside there and sit down
Yeah.
with a group of kids.
It's better than cops.
You know, yeah, way better than cops. You know, if we can get in there and we can say, hey, we know what this is about, you know, talk to us. Maybe we can save you from losing your life,
Right.
from having your loved ones.
I feel like it's they just do the DARE thing because I think the whole point of DARE is to just have a better relationship with people and police, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but you're basically just manipulating children into growing up thinking
It does. I don't think it works. So
right.
no, we're not going to talk about DARE because I said it doesn't work.
Hey,
however,
hey,
again,
it is what it is. It don't freaking work.
You have peer support going to schools, and you allow the kids to come in and talk to them, right? Because peer support, we don't report back to the police. That's not what we do. You know, little Susie or little Johnny, they're smoking weed. No, we don't tell that.
Right.
We're there to talk to them, to hear you. Tell me what's going on, what's happening. Because a lot of our youth are under stress too. Their parents are under stress, they're under stress, right? They have people in their families who are addicts. Maybe they lost people to overdose, right? And they're just doing what they know. Now we're teaching them something different, something better, a better way of life.
Guys, last question. If you both could have one wish, what would it be?
A gazillion dollars.
So honestly, Jess, you know
I know what your wish is.
you always know I tell you that if I had a wand, there would be none of this. There would be no disease. There would be no addiction. There would be no drugs. There wouldn't be any of this. Unfortunately, they don't trust me with the wand, right?
Yeah.
I know there's one out there somewhere, right? And I would wish for, none of this. I would wish for there to be no drugs, for there to be no death, for, no addiction, that I wouldn't have lost my son, you wouldn't have lost your mom, right? But it is what it is. And so the reasonable wish that I have is that I make an impact on just one person who can make an impact on somebody else. That's mine.
You sticking with your gazillion dollars?
I actually change it to consistently resetting money. So once I get that money, it gives more. Because you know how much good you could do with that?
That's true.
You could do anything you wanted, man.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Change everything.
You could change. I mean, people like us, right? People who have fought really hard to get out of active addiction and are truly in the recovery process. We do want to help people.
Yeah.
We do want to be able to say, well, when we have people that say, I need a job, where am I going to live? There are no places to live, right? The places that we have are full. We need more housing, right? We could start so many more houses, and we could have really good staff to run the houses. So it's not a bad, not a bad wish.
It'd be great. I wouldn't like it's easy to say I wish that honestly, I wish I never would have done some of the things I did, but where I'm at today with my life and the things, I'm very happy, and part of that is going through the shit that I did.
I think I would never wish that part away, that what happened to me.
Yeah. Because
it showed me a whole different side of the person I am.
Yep, me too.
And so I like the person I am today. And so, I stick with the wish of, being able to help one person who can in turn help another person.
I was already on the path to becoming a piece of shit without the drugs. I was.
All right, y'all. all, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, guys, this is our lives, our stories, our recoveries. Please stay tuned for the next video.